You're live.
Okay, good evening and welcome everybody to the Planning Commission meeting of August 4th. I'd like to introduce our recording secretary, Jen Chavez.
Hello, good evening, and welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. Prior to roll call, the city attorney would like to make an announcement to the Planning Commission regarding the teleconferencing. Alicia Poon.
Thank you, Jen. Prior to roll call, I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that the governor has issued executive orders relaxing the requirements pertaining to remote meetings under the Brown Act. The executive orders authorize this planning commission to hold public meetings by teleconference during the COVID-19 crisis. I previously went over the specific provisions of the Brown Act that have been temporarily amended or suspended in order to allow for this meeting to take place by teleconference. And this meeting will comply with all such provisions. Madam Recording Secretary, it would now be appropriate for you to conduct roll call, after which I would ask the chair to recognize me in order to confirm certain matters for the record. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're going to start with Commissioner Frank.
Present.
Commissioner Kuznick.
Present.
Commissioner Marks. Commissioner Marks, you're on mute still.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wallace.
I'm here.
And Chair Alpert.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Alicia, you now may proceed with confirming matters for the record.
Thank you, Chair Alpert. I would now like to ask the chair, the vice chair, and the other commission members 3 questions. Rather than ask you to respond separately to these questions, I'll ask all 3. And if the answer is no to any one of them, please indicate by physically raising your hand. Number 1, can you hear me well? 2, have you been able to hear our proceedings up until now? And 3rd, were you able to hear all of your fellow commissioners clearly as they responded to roll call? If the answer to any of these questions is no, please respond by physically raising your hand. Okay, and seeing no one raise their hand, the record should reflect that all commission members have indicated that they're able to hear each other and these proceedings clearly. I would next request that any commission member speak up at this time if you have any reason to believe that anyone representing themselves to be a planning commissioner is not who they say they are. Okay, hearing no comment, the record should reflect that no commission member has expressed doubt that each and every commission member participating by teleconference is in fact the commission member they are representing themselves to be. And finally, I would like to now advise the chair and the commission members and the recording secretary that any votes taken during the teleconference portion of this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. At this time, I'd like to ask the recording secretary to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so item 4 is public comments or written communication. At this time, if you wish to speak under public comment, you may click the raise your hand button on the computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken. You will be unmuted when it is your turn to make your comment for up to 3 minutes. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. At this time, those who wish to address the Planning Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda will be able to do so. And we don't have any written late communication that we received, so we will go ahead and open up with the audience. And Chair Alpert, if you'd like to go ahead and
Okay, at this time we'll go ahead. Okay, thanks, Jen. So at this time, let me first announce that we do have, it looks like, 2 people that have raised their hands, and there are 28 people currently watching us on Zoom tonight. I don't have a visibility into who's watching us on YouTube. And there are 2 individuals that have their hands raised. We have received, just for the public record, a number of people who emailed us in advance. And as a reminder, we do get copies of all those forward to the commission, and we do all read those in advance. So at this time, Jen, if you want to go ahead and call those that have their hands raised, please.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Alpert. So we'll go ahead and start with Luz Gomez. Luz, you are on if you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you so much, dear Planning Commissioners. I am Luz Gomez, a 40-year resident of San Ramon, and I'm writing to express my concerns about the City Walk Master Plan. I agree that this part of our city is the best location for denser housing rather than building our required housing allocation far away from transit, jobs, and amenities. However, I do have some concerns. First, parks. I'm concerned that the draft EIR identifies the amount of park acres as consistent with the general plan. As you know.
Sorry, can I interrupt you just a moment? This is actually for comments not on tonight's agenda.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
So
Thank you for
if
interrupting
you
me.
wanted to speak on that item, it will be later.
It'll be later. Thank you so much. Thank you for interrupting me. My apologies.
That's okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Jen. And go ahead and we do have one other speaker with their hand raised. As a reminder, these are for comments not on the agenda tonight. So
Yes. So I have a Mark Armstrong. I'll go ahead and allow you to talk whenever you're ready.
Yes, good evening. First, I'd like to thank the commissioners and the staff for what you do on behalf of our fellow citizens. In my 4 decades of military and public service, I've learned to appreciate the challenge of building consensus on difficult issues. I know there are big items on the agenda tonight, so I'll try to be brief. My purpose tonight is to offer a solution to a partially resolved issue, to allow limited beekeeping on some residential properties while still ensuring public health and safety. I'm a hobby beekeeper, and like many other retirees and veterans, I find beekeeping as a way to do my part for environmental stewardship, and I find it very therapeutic. I've discovered my fellow beekeepers are very responsible, with a desire to carefully manage their bees and fit in well with their neighbors. San Ramon's last detailed public review of residential beekeeping was in 2012 to 2013. I've reviewed the minutes of those past open meetings and the opinions voiced for and against beekeeping. Some of the past objections included opinions that honeybees are farm animals and don't belong in residential areas, or fear that honeybees could become aggressive or potentially sting, concern about swarms, and even concerns about the health of bees and access to on-site water. The merits of these valid opinions and others were debated, and the decision at the time was to allow beekeeping only on properties greater than 1 acre. And this may sound like it allowed beekeeping, but it effectively disallowed beekeeping for most of San Ramon. So what's changed in the last 8 years? Well, a few things. In 2019, Contra Costa County began enforcing a new California law requiring beekeepers to register their hives with the county agricultural commissioner. And in 2015, our Tri-Valley neighbor Pleasanton changed their 89-year-old ban on beekeeping. And more cities in the Bay Area now allow beekeeping to varying degrees. In recent years, you've probably seen some of the numerous news reports about the benefits of honeybees for our food crops. Yet unfortunately, over the last 8 years, honeybee populations suffered major losses, with a 40% loss in the US just last year. And we also see San Ramon has an increasingly diverse citizenry who tend to favor inclusive, green, and most likely pollinator-friendly local policies. I could go on, but here's the bottom line. I've coordinated a draft proposal that lays out clear standards on beekeeping. It takes into consideration the health and safety of our residents and our honeybees. It helps preserve our property values and contributes to beautifying our yards and public spaces. It limits the numbers of hives allowed for detached single-family residential properties and addresses things like proximity to neighboring properties, flyaway barriers, water availability, and nuisance concerns. I'd be happy to share it with the appropriate staff for consideration. My recommendation is that the Planning Commission revisit the subject of residential beekeeping in San Ramon. I'd be honored to volunteer my time and effort to help. Thank you.
thank you so much for coming out. And I know you've been in touch with staff. You'll continue to work with them on this item, at this time. Okay. Anybody else on this portion of public comment, Jen?
I don't see anyone on our end.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close this part of our public comment.
Okay. We'll move on to item 5, which is additions and revisions. We have none this evening. Item 6 is consent calendar. We have no items. And item 7, approval of minutes. Item 7.1, minutes from the July 21st, 2020 regular planning commission meeting.
Okay. Okay, at this time, are there any changes, corrections from the minutes from the July 21st, 2020 Planning Commission meeting?
Yes, I have one small comment, or I guess edit, on packet page 6. About a third of the way down where the paragraph begins, Commissioner Frank proposed language. That I believe that incorrectly states what the amendment was. The purpose of the amendment that was agreed to and voted on was that the applicant would issue written instructions to use the Al Costa entrance for ingress and egress. But this recitation of the record says that the language proposed is that it requires all entrance and exit related to this use directed to Al Costa. That technically isn't true. It's not required of the actual drivers. There's no vehicle code enforcement that can occur here. This is just a letter of instruction from the applicant to its clients. That's all. So I just wanted to make that comment on the minutes.
Thank you.
Noted. Okay. Any other changes? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the minutes as amended tonight?
I will so move.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Okay, I'll go ahead and conduct a roll call vote. We had mover Commissioner Frank.
Aye.
We had seconder Vice Chair Wallace,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuznick,
Aye.
Commissioner Marks,
Aye.
and Chair Alpert.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 7.1 passes as amended. Okay, so item 8 is continued items after closing of public hearing. There are none tonight. And that brings us to item 9, continued items. Open public hearing. Item 9.1 is City Walk Final Environmental Impact Report and Master Plan Approval. Staff report is presented by Lauren Barr, Planning Manager.
Hi, Lauren.
Let me unmute myself here. I'm got too many screens. All right, there we go. That's better.
There we go.
Sorry about that. So I have a brief PowerPoint presentation to recap the process thus far and respond to some of the questions that were raised in late communication from the last meeting. After that, we'd like to give the opportunity for the applicant to speak and then open the public hearing and receive testimony. So right now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And okay, can you see it? Okay, so the master plan profile is a framework of development over 27 years. It's 4,500 multifamily units with 15% affordable. There's 169 key hotel site, which was approved under separate application, but is acknowledged in the master plan. 166,000 square feet of commercial space split between multiple parcels within the project area. 3 new parking structures to address the existing office parking and free up space for residential development. There's also a shared parking concept, which we discussed at the last meeting, and 40.7 of acres of public park and public spaces that would be accessible to the public but privately owned and maintained. There's also provisions for pedestrian and bicycle circulation, as well as transit hubs and other community amenities. So we have a series of applications that are associated with the master plan, a vesting tentative map, which splits it into neighborhoods, a development plan, which is essentially the site plan for the layout of the master plan, architectural review for design guidelines, a minor use permit that would authorize the reduction for the shared parking analysis, and then a land use permit to address the community amenities and uses such as the amphitheater, lodging uses, and the like. Now, again, we've mentioned this at the last meeting and we'll mention it again. All future phases of development are subject to a future development plan and architectural review. So the master plan is the framework, but we will get to detailed site designs with each phase of development in the future. So again, here's the layout of the master plan, and you've all seen this document over the last year or so. And there's basically 5 neighborhoods that are identified. Let me go ahead and get a highlighter and I'll just walk through it real quick. So again, we have a neighborhood that's south of Bollinger Canyon Road on Bishop Ranch 1A site, north of Bishop Ranch, excuse me, of Bollinger Canyon Road. And that's where the hotel is located on the corner. And again, that's the 3A site. 2600 is this much larger 100-acre parcel, which includes 3 neighborhoods. But in addition, there are parking structures to accommodate the loss of surface parking. And I would mention that this first one here is existing, and it's also overflow for the city center project here. There's a medical office building from the prior city center entitlements, which is also carried forward under the original approvals, but as part of the master plan area. And then we have amenities such as Lake Cecilia and Annabelle Lake that again have recreational amenities planned for them, such as the amphitheater and community buildings and docks. So on the public hearing on July 21st, we had a discussion on really 2 topics, the final EIR, which included the references to the draft EIR, which was put out for public circulation, the response to comments document, which included a detailed response to, again, to the comments that had been received throughout the process, as well as errata changes to the EIR itself, and then the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. The second topic that we addressed was the actual master plan itself. And we went through the staff report and talked on various topics, such as the vesting tentative map, the development standards, design guidelines, shared parking, and then the draft resolutions, including the conditions of approval. And then as part of the presentation, we also included an economic analysis for reference. Also at that meeting, you received some late communication. And so we thought it was worthwhile to address that communication in this staff report. And we actually had our environmental consultants prepare responses to the comments received in that email. And again, it wasn't just this comment related to some of the issues such as rushing transportation, housing, parks, public safety, population, hazardous materials, and water. But we also received a number of comments supporting the project. So again, there were mixed comments received. But the memo that's included in your staff report goes through each of those topics listed above in the slide, and discusses how they are consistent with many of the comments that were previously provided and addressed in the response to comments. And again, so that's included in the record. and will help clarify any questions the commission might have about those particular comments. In addition, between the last hearing and this hearing, we received some additional comments from Greenfire Law on behalf of Jimblickenstaff. And the nature of the comment was regarding the CEQA process and Senate Bill 330. And there was some confusion in there about an assertion that one of these timelines prohibited compliance with CEQA. And so we really wanted to clarify that point as well. The case law that was referenced in the comment, which again is in your packet, doesn't really address the situation that we're dealing with here. It was a different set of circumstances, and therefore it's really not applicable. And we wanted to reinforce the fact that SB 330 does not limit the city's ability to fully consider CEQA impacts, and we can take as many hearings as we want in terms of CEQA, and to ensure that the project has been thoroughly addressed. The city review process has actually worked with the both provisions of CEQA and SB 330. And then one last point I'd like to make is that the CEQA process does not require that we hold more hearings than necessary. Once the decision body is ready to act and feels that they can make a determination based on the findings and record of decision, they're free to move forward there. So there's nothing about this approval process that's inconsistent with either CEQA or SB 330. So we have draft resolutions, and they're pretty long and detailed. There's a lot of references included. The first one is Resolution 10-20, certifying the final EIR, and it includes an exhibit of findings and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. We also included by reference the actual draft EIR and then the response to comments document, which constitutes the final EIR. So all the documents are referenced and cross-referenced in that particular resolution for the EIR. Resolution 1112 is actually making findings to approve the City Walk Master Plan. And once again, it includes the layout of the plan, the conditions of approval, the mitigation monitoring and reporting programs included here as well, because those are conditions of approval by reference in this resolution. There's a general plan consistency table from the draft EIR, and then the actual development application packet, vesting tentative map, and design guidelines are also referenced in this particular document. There were some revisions to the resolutions. We found some typos and text clarifications needed. We also modified the language slightly to address the 45-day review period comments that we'd received in the past, just to be very clear about the process. We also added some acknowledgement of the social media outreach that has been done. And those same clarifications were also made in Resolution 1120. In addition, we added a new condition related to indemnification of the city. And then also at the request of the commissioners, a condition related to electric vehicle charging stations. And I might add that since the publication of this, there were a few typos that have been addressed in that particular condition. Just some plurals and things to be consistent. There's one additional revision that came as late communication from the fire district. And again, I need to emphasize that the conditions from the fire district and other utilities are not city conditions. They're in here for reference so that there's a complete record that these issues have been addressed. But the district and applicant have had ongoing discussions over impact fees and the like. And so as a result of this, condition 27 and 28 were deleted, and 26 was modified to include those other provisions of the deleted section. And in addition, the last bullet point was added that allows for the possibility of an agreement for renovations of joint public safety complex. And so again, that's just keeping opportunities open for the district and the applicant. And again, the city is not party to verifying compliance with these particular conditions. So at this point, staff recommends that the Planning Commission receive the staff report and presentation, open the public hearing, receive public testimony, close the public hearing, deliberate, and by separate action, adopt resolution 1020, certifying the final EIR for the City Walk Master Plan and adopting CEQA findings in the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program. And then second, adopt the resolution 1120 approving the City Walk Master Plan, including the vesting tentative map, development plan, land use permit, minor use permit, and architectural review, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And so with that, I am available for questions, and I'd also like to give the applicant an opportunity to address the commission before the public hearing starts. So can we
Thank you, Lauren.
promote Jerry, or is he on there already?
Jerry's on.
Here. I just promoted, I think it's Alex. I have his phone number, so I let him, he's allowed to speak. He's on there. It wouldn't let me promote him to a panelist, but he should be able to comment. If there's any other phone numbers we need to include, let me know.
I think just Lisa Davison with the 415-497, if I'm correct.
415.
497.
25? Oh, 497. There we go. Okay.
So if we could go ahead and let Jerry make whatever comments he'd like to make at this point, and then we can turn it back to the commission. Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Good evening, Chair Alpert and members of the commission. My name is Jerry Ying, and I'm Senior Vice President of Development and Construction for Sunset Development Company. It's good to be back before you again on this exciting project. Sunset's proud of the results and to be bringing forward a balanced project to fulfill the city's vision, creating a vibrant mixed-use transit-oriented district where people can shop, dine, socialize, enjoy outdoors, all while living a short distance or a short bike ride or walk to their jobs, along with providing much needed workforce housing. We appreciate the comprehensive process that has been undertaken. Tonight is the 20th in a combination of public hearings, meetings, workshops, and on this project, and the 4th public hearing specifically regarding the EIR, even though CEQA does not require any public hearings to take comments on the CEQA document. It is also clear that this has been an extensive undertaking and that the city has gone above and beyond the requirements outlined in your code and CEQA. As I mentioned in the last meeting, not only are we completely consistent with the general plan and zoning, there are tremendous economic benefits for the city and the region. We have read the staff report, the mitigation monitoring report, the conditions of approval, and all related documents, and take no exceptions. I'm happy to answer any questions. And also Alexander's on the call, I think wants to say a couple words as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Alex Marin Jr. And I just wanted to echo Jerry's comments, and on behalf of my father and I, express our deep gratitude for not only your commitment of time, but all of your thoughts and efforts that have gone into improving the plan over this extensive process. We really appreciate it, and are genuinely looking forward to the future of downtown San Ramon. So thank you very much, and thank you also to the staff who've worked extremely hard on this.
Thank you, Alex. So Lauren, at this time, we'll go ahead and open public comment, or did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So at this time, I'll go ahead and open the public comment, and we will. So Jen, do you want to go ahead and give instructions? And
Sure.
we will-
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to opening public comment to the audience, I'm first going to acknowledge we did receive several late communication items. I'll go through those right now, and then we'll go over how to comment if you would like to and you're not familiar with the process. So the first item we received was from Stephanie Sakai, District Counsel for the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District. And this was asking to amend section the conditions of approval and delete for a connection to be made between the marketplace and City Walk Master Plan area. From Jimblickenstaff, commenting on traffic, retail and customer interaction, entertainment, workplace, pedestrian and bike pathways, housing.
I don't know if other commissioners are experiencing this, but I can't hear Jen at all.
Yeah, sounds like she froze for a sec. Let's see, give her 1 second to come back. Yeah. Oh, there's
Hello,
just-
sorry about that.
Well, Jen, if you could go back through the public comment
Yeah.
from the beginning, please.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Where did I leave off, and where?
Why don't you go back with the written public comments you received? You started to
Okay.
cut out a bit then. Yeah,
Start from the
Sure.
yeah.
Comment we received was from Stephanie Sakai. It was with the district council for the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District, asking to amend section 26 to the conditions of approval and delete sections 27 and 28. Lauren actually did touch on that a little bit earlier. Our second comment that we received was from Magnus Back, commenting on the need for walk bridges, underground parking, and for a connection to be made between the marketplace and the City Walk Master Plan area. From Jimblickenstaff, commenting on traffic, retail and customer interaction, entertainment, workplace, pedestrian and bike pathways, housing density, parks and recreational open space, population, new economic limitation, and long-term drought. From Pat Rays, regarding density, preserving open space, transit solutions, green building materials, and affordable housing. From Donald Kowalski, voicing support of the City Walk project, citing revenue generation, housing, jobs, mass transit, and enhanced amenities. And from Attorney Rachel Doty, on behalf of Jimblickenstaff, commenting on impacts of the coronavirus on the financial feasibility of the Crow Canyon specific plan project and how it relates to the City Walk project. And finally, we received one last comment from Luz Gomez, commenting on parks, traffic impacts, density, schools, conditions of approvals, and the character of San Ramon's downtown. So all of these comments were provided to the Planning Commission in advance of tonight's meetings, in advance of tonight's meeting. And for anyone else who would like to speak on item 9.1, City Walk Final Environmental Impact Report and Master Plan Approval, you may do so now by pressing the raise your hand button on your computer screen or *9 on your telephone. You will have 3 minutes to speak. And when your 3 minutes is up, we will go ahead and remute you. So now we'll go ahead and look to our audience members and see if there's anyone who would like to speak on this topic.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So at this time, I'll go ahead and open the public comment, and just by way of announcement, we do have 32 people in attendance at the Zoom portion. Again, looks like we have 3 people that have raised their hands. So Jen, I'll go ahead and let you call on them.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start with Luz Gomez. Luz, you're good to go whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Luz.
Hello, dear Chair Alpert and Planning Commissioners. I am Luz Gomez, a 40-year resident of San Ramon, and I'm writing to express a few concerns I have about the City Walk Master Plan. I agree that this part of our city is the best location for denser housing rather than building our required housing allocation far away from transit, jobs, and amenities. My concerns include parks. I'm concerned that the draft EIR identified the amount of park acreage as consistent with the general plan. But as you know, the plan calls for 6.5 acres per 1,000 residents. And if you do the math, that equals 84.5 acres of parks and not 40.7 as currently in the plan. So it shouldn't say that it's consistent, and it should identify where the city will be building the missing parks and any park dedication fees mandated by the city, where they will go. For traffic impacts, from a resident perspective, the EIR is not adequate because it does not take into consideration the cumulative impacts of the extra traffic that this project will generate over the time of the whole, or on the whole city. It seems to not only address the adjacent traffic impacts on the roads that surround the project. I would like the traffic impacts to be analyzed outside of the immediate project area. Regarding density, the density of 33.3 dwelling units per acre is considered very high density. This level of density is comparable to some of the most urbanized cities in the US. This makes sense where cities have robust public transit options like metros and subways, but we don't have this, and I don't see a plan for it over the next 27 years. The city center mixed use general plan area is zoned for a density of 22 to 50 dwellings per acre. I urge you to use your discretion to lower the density of this project to high density, which is less than 30 dwelling units per acre, rather than the current very high density. Schools. I realize this is the purview of the school district. However, as a city, we need to understand that projections are not always accurate. Look at what happened in the Doherty Valley in its early phase of development. Schools were severely impacted due to the long-term planning that failed to predict that large families would be moving in. Regarding conditions of approval, I urge the city, before approving this long-range vision, to work with the San Ramon Education Foundation to come up with a community benefits agreement where the Education Foundation would receive funds annually to help San Ramon schools as needed, as needs arise based on unknown future school enrollment numbers. And finally, the character of our downtown. I'm disappointed that this vision for the future of the closest thing San Ramon will ever have to a downtown is moving forward so quickly that many residents have not had a full opportunity to weigh in about this. I know that there have been 20 previous meetings, but I wonder how many residents actually participated. A plan such as this should be subject to much more community engagement to make sure that our values and aspirations for a future downtown are incorporated as best as possible. Residents want room for a robust cultural center downtown for artists and performers. They want the lakes to be even more of an amenity for all to enjoy. I urge the planning—
That was your 3-minute mark. If you want to finish up, you can.
Yes, so I urge the commission to delay approval of the plan until the city plan and proponent have done much more resident engagement and incorporated more of our input in the plan. I urge the city council to hear this proposal, even if it's not appealed. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming out. Okay.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on. We have Aparna Mata ready. You may go ahead and speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yes.
Hi, Aparna.
Good evening. Aparna Mata, 23-year San Ramon resident and chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee. Last time I had talked about the challenges that will come with reducing the number of shared parking spots, and I will still encourage you to look at that number. Some mitigations, I agree, can evolve over time. But those related to traffic and parking, those must be addressed early on because the foundation needs to be very strong. Addressing these will be one of the most critical aspects in our urban core development because a lot of the proposal is based on assumptions, and a lot of these are consumer behaviors that are changing in a post-pandemic world. It's already being predicted that more than 30% are going to work from home in 2021 and beyond. So children need to be dropped off to school. For retail to be successful, you don't want people to get frustrated they can't find parking. And if there are people with 2 cars in these units, That is going to start becoming a problem moving forward. When population density increases, it's a given traffic volumes per square mile will also increase. I mean, there is research from the Federal Highway Administration with examples, 100% population per square mile, there will be an 80% increase in vehicle miles per square mile. So I would really encourage you to look at the parking, shared parking concept. But today I'm going to speak about the mention of setbacks is there. The setbacks for noise sources from adjacent dwellings and the adjacent roadways is there. But I know building setbacks aren't a very important consideration for street standards, but in this case, it should be, especially because we are designing for a long-term proposal, and in a post-pandemic world, I'm going to keep highlighting that. So street width becomes very important. We want to make it inviting for pedestrians and bicyclists, creating a feeling of openness. So sidewalk requirements will become important. I went to Livermore to check, and I know the curb to curb roadway width there is about 36 feet. It works for most cities. I would recommend 40 if possible. I know that is a lot in a unit when you have 4,500 units, but that is something I would encourage you to look at. I also did not see a right-of-way width for residential streets. I may have missed it. Again, I didn't have time to read the whole thing. Danville has 38 feet, I believe. We could use a little bit more. Again, the concept is we want to maintain that physical distance between people but also keep that concept of social community interaction on the streets moving forward. So please look at this as a long-term project that will impact residents who are moving in. We still want to
That was your 3-minute mark.
Health
Or
and well-being of residents. Thank you. I'm done. Thank you. But I would encourage you to look at that.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will go ahead and move on. We have Joyce Carr. And Joyce, you should be good to go when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Hi, Joyce.
Okay, good evening. I usually just write something, and I did tonight. I wrote something and sent it in, but I guess I don't know what happened to it, but I sent it in time. But so I decided I would just talk to you tonight, kind of go over what I had said earlier. I'm a 34-year resident here in San Ramon, and have a lot of concerns about this project. I think one of my big concerns is that it seems it's moving very quickly. And I don't know if during a pandemic like we're going through now, to me, does not seem like a good time to be making all these decisions and doing all of these things that, as Luz and Aparna have mentioned, there's a lot of things that need to be checked and rechecked. The traffic is going to be very, very much impacted. The kids walking to and from school, the intersection at San Ramon Valley Boulevard and Norris Canyon, that's an intersection where people walk, the kids are walking to schools. There needs to be more community engagement in this project and just not be pushing it ahead so quickly. Lots and lots of concerns. It's already got a lot of, again, like I said, we've already got a lot of traffic in the city. We want to keep our city a place where people come to, or people who live here say, oh, you know, this is just a really nice place to live. I can come home, I can live in a city where, you know, there's people around and there's activities, but it's just not impacted with so much traffic now and so many things going on. And I used to like to take a walk here and I can't do that anymore. My kids can't walk to school anymore the way they used to go. So again, it's going too fast. The whole thing is going too fast. And on top of that, we've got the pandemic, and that's making it even more important that we slow down and look at this thing closely, get a lot of community input and engagement in this. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joyce.
Mhm.
Okay, we could go ahead and move on. It looks like we have Denise.
Hi, my name's Denise Morgan, and my husband and I have lived in San Ramon for about 20 years. So a lot has changed pretty obviously since we moved here, and I don't know if it's been for the better. We live off of Bollinger, so up by Club Sport. If you went down all the way on the golf course, our number one appeal was what a quiet, beautiful city. I now sit out in our backyard and all I hear is traffic. We hear horns. I mean, the wind goes right up the hill, even though we have a huge distance from the freeway. It's amazing how loud it is. My family, we had a social distancing get together, and my niece, who's 12 years old, commented on it, which I thought was just ironic. I had not spoken to her about it at all. Her comment was, "Boy, I don't remember your backyard being so noisy." And it made me sad. I thought, wow, I had not really paid attention until she said that. Extremely noisy. We hear the freeway noise now. We hear neighbors down the court below us because when the wind comes up, it carries voices. So I'm just worried that there's going to be more noise right there being carried up to our place. The other thing too is getting to the freeway. Our only option is to go down Bollinger. If I try to turn right on El Costa, I've got the Iron Horse Middle School to contend with if I'm going to try and get over to Crow Canyon. So I have to go right through all of this chaos every day. And it really worries me. I don't think that right now we're in the pandemic, there's not nearly as many cars, and it's chaos already. The other concern I have is we rushed on the mall, and I don't personally think it's that big of a success. It seems like there's a lot of stores that aren't in there. All this revenue that we keep getting promised, and I know revenue is critical, but revenue isn't the only thing. My younger sister lives in Orinda. She pays $2,000 more in property tax than what I pay here. And she lives in Orinda, a very sleepy, quiet, well-established, planned city. So, and they have a beautiful little downtown. I think we are moving way too fast. I agree completely with Joyce on her comments of we're in a pandemic. This is a lot of change. We are just recovering from having Bollinger dealing with construction. Unfortunately, for where we live, we never signed up for that, but we lived through it. And respectfully, I totally understand. You have to, somebody has to. But to turn around and make another change like this so drastically is really monumental. We've already noticed the change when the city offices went in. People slam on their brakes to turn right into that parking lot.
That's your 3-minute
Okay.
3-minute mark if you want to wrap it up.
Yes, thank you. I did want to comment, Jerry, you mentioned that it doesn't require any public comments. We pay taxes here. I really think that it should require the public. Thank you very much. Do really appreciate this.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Thank you, Denise.
Okay, so it looks like we have Jimblickenstaff. I'll go ahead and allow you to talk. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can,
Yes.
Jim. Thanks for coming out. Hi, Jim.
Yeah, just very quickly, I wanted to clarify. The Sierra Club has not endorsed this project. It has different criteria for supporting projects than the Greenbelt Alliance does. And infill is a very key part of that criteria, but it's not the only part. There are other responsibilities to smart growth that include the community benefit as well as the benefit for growth. So at this time, Sierra Club is not supporting this project. It's not taking a stand overtly against it, but it did not see the kind of response that it needed to see from an infill project that would qualify for endorsement by the Sierra Club. So I just wanted to get that out first. And then also, on my comment letter that touched on about 10 points. I hope you have a chance to look that over. And I just would wrap it up very quickly with a summary of that. We are now in a pandemic era, and likely it will extend for years. This means less intense projects and prioritizing more space, not less, for several criteria of growth planning, as noted in my letter. It will necessitate profoundly different standards for planning. Social norms, some likely to change forever, have yet to been fully engaged within this City Walk master plan. Deferring planning responsibilities to limited scope later project environmental reviews and trying to master plan past epidemically induced harsh, complicated realities to some hopeful normalcy is simply a form of professional denial. And it fails to accurately address the master plan framework, the needs and demands of fundamentally changed growth environment. San Ramon residents who will be suffering the brunt of impacts from this project deserve better. And in that regard, I just say, I want to comment similar to somebody said earlier, that I think it's time to take a pause, put off formal approval, and engage the public, do informal outreach to the public, get the impact, the effect from the public that you haven't got yet, get their concerns and their issues and engage in those and resolve them, or at least answer them in a way that the public becomes involved in the decision-making process. You can do that in an informal way that will help bring them in as part owner of this project. Right now with the pandemic, they've been pretty much left out. So I say, let's engage in that outreach effort and get that going with the people that live in San Ramon, and the outcome of that will be a better project for all concerned. So I'd say at least do that before formally sending it to the City Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
All right, it looks like we have one more speaker. So I'm gonna go ahead and allow Dan Bridges to speak.
Okay, hi Dan, go ahead and.
Hello, thank you for allowing me a little brief moment or two to speak. Good evening to everybody. So I've never really been very participatory in these types of events in the city where I've lived for 21 years now and been a homeowner. Definitely have enjoyed very much living here. But after recently seeing a post on Nextdoor, I realized that I needed to at least speak up and give an opinion, because I'm not sure how many people are actually doing that. I'm surprised there's only 32 people actually on the line tonight. This is so simple to engage. I'm very impressed with all the people so far that have expressed themselves about the various complexities about this project. I'm in line with what I've heard. Pretty much everything I've heard is a very rational, I think, response and think through of what we're looking ahead at here. The density of the housing is very concerning to me. That's definitely going to impact quality of life. There's no question about that with all the additional people coming into the area in a concentrated way. The retail situation has changed, as people have mentioned, and I can't believe that we wouldn't, take a couple steps back and think about this. You know, let's see what happens to the existing retail we've already built that is, been going through this incredible time of a pandemic. How is that going to come back? Maybe we look at that for a while and see how that does, I mean, there's some behavior changes that the psychologists are telling us are going to impact us in the longer term. It's just not going to just all turn over when the virus goes away. So, and I do think the community input is critical. Based on all the people I know, I don't think this is a top of mind subject, and it has a tremendous impact on all of us, whatever goes forward here. I saw the police chief speaking on Nextdoor very effectively with citizens during the time of the protests and after. And I'm surprised, frankly, maybe I've missed it, but that we haven't had something like that go on with folks like yourselves to answer questions. So I would suggest that, and I would thank you for your time tonight. And I hope that this goes through the next continued phases of consideration very deliberately with more input. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dan, for coming out tonight. Okay. Okay. So,
All right.
so I don't see any more hands. If anybody has any more comments, go ahead and raise your hand at this time. Do one more second to let people find the raise your hand button.
All right,
Okay.
I'm not seeing any, but Chair Alpert, I just wanted to remind you, Jerry will have a chance at a rebuttal if he would like.
Okay, so seeing no more people raising their hand, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public comment. And at this time, we'll let the applicant, Jerry, if you would like to make a few comments in response to public comment. I'll go ahead and click the unmute for you.
Can you hear me?
I got it for you.
Okay. About the only thing I think I would add is that we've been engaged with public outreach for over a year on this project. We had our open house last year, which we had probably 300 people show up to. So it was well attended. And we've had several public meetings that's been publicly advertised. So it has definitely been in the public eye for a long time. We've been in a number of public meetings, planning commission meetings, other committee meetings. So I feel like we did really try to reach out to the community and get input on it. And, you know, I believe the staff has done a terrific job in studying and analyzing all of these concerns around traffic and you know, all the environmental impacts. And so I think those have all been very well addressed in the documents. So I feel very confident that the city has done a very thorough job and has not rushed this analysis or this review process. And I'm really pleased with the amount of diligence and efforts that's been put into it.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, so at this time, why don't we open up to commission questions to either staff or the applicant, and we have the First Carbon consultants as well as other staff on the line if there are questions.
And let me know if you guys are aware there's someone else who might like to speak. I have a couple of phone callers. I can't see a name for those, so I can promote them if you'd like.
Great, okay.
Through the chair, have you closed the public hearing officially?
I did. I think I did close the public comment before I asked Jerry to speak. I thought I did, but I'll do it a second time, just in the absence of any doubt. We go ahead and close the public comment the second time, you know, but I thought I did. Okay. So at this time, are there questions for Lauren or for the applicant or for First Carbon Solutions on any of the documents we've seen, had presented to us tonight, in the past? I'm seeing nobody looking to reach for their unmute button, so I'm not seeing any questions at this time. Okay, open up for comments, discussion. Anybody want to get started? You know, the recommendation tonight was that we discuss, deliberate, and if comfortable, we do two things. We first certify the EIR, and we can start with that to begin with. You know, certifying the EIR is to review the findings, review and approve the MMR, Mitigation Monitoring Report. If we're comfortable. So I'm not seeing any comments or concerns or reservations at this point on that. So then I guess we're at the place where, Lauren, you suggested we take this in two steps. We make a single resolution to certify the resolution. Is there a motion to certify the environmental impact report? And we can do that independent of the actual applications. So, you know, we can take that independent of any other actions tonight, you know. So do we have is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, I will go ahead and break the ice. Already unmuted. So I will move to adopt resolution number 10-20, which is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Ramon certifying the environmental impact report for the proposed City Walk Master Plan project for SCH number 201909056, close paren, adopting CEQA findings and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program.
I will second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So at this point, we can.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I know this is a little unusual, but I would like to express why I'm seconding the motion. We've heard a number of times that we are rushing this. This is really the 6th public review of this project that I know about, which started in November of last year, and through tonight is meeting number 6. And we have read close to 1,000 pages of documents between the EIR, the mitigation monitoring program, the staff reports, the design guidelines, and who knows what all. So it's not like we rushed into this. This is something that we have spent almost 8 months reviewing. And on that basis, I'm comfortable seconding the motion.
Well said.
Well said.
So now I think at this point, since it's been moved and seconded, we can now actually, I think it's appropriate to review the resolution for any comments. Is that right? That's how you recommended we do this. We can now, if there are any comments, and again, if there's a comma or a typo, you can let Lauren know. We don't need to take those at the dais tonight. But, were there any, we did this last meeting, but if there are any other changes or comments or, changes to the motion or the findings, we don't need to go page by page, but, And Commissioner Marks, I had similar comments, but I was going to save them for the resolution versus the EIR. But I thank you for bringing those comments up as a reminder. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Seeing no comments on the resolution of certifying the EIR, I think we are ready for a roll call vote.
All righty. So we have mover Vice Chair Wallace.
Aye.
Seconder Marks.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank.
Aye.
Commissioner Kuznick.
Aye.
And Chair Alpert.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
And, and I think before we move to the resolution, I had a couple of comments on, why I'm comfortable approving the master plan, first of all, is it the right kind of project for this part of the city? And, that's the first thing I felt like when I was thinking about this. And, what started us down this path was, really not just 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago, or not even just a year ago, but if we think back to really 3 years ago when we started the economic element update and we looked at where retail was going in the city of San Ramon, and we were thinking about protecting neighborhood retail and trying to keep our shopping centers pure. And we talked about what could happen to shopping centers in the city of San Ramon that were all zoned at that time mixed use, and wanting to protect those and protecting sales tax in San Ramon, and looking at the hills of San Ramon and where housing could go. And then thinking about where housing could go that was least impactful to neighborhoods, it made sense to put housing in the core of the city. So it makes sense to put housing in San Ramon in the core. And so I felt comfortable putting housing here in the core, and it's close to jobs, and it makes sense. And then to echo Commissioner Marks's comments, depending on how we count, you know, the number of outreach meetings, and I can't count the number of presentations at Rotary clubs and mayor's breakfasts and open houses, but, you know, we had over, I think it was 10 planning commission workshops and study sessions and formal meetings. And yes, we had 3 after the project was deemed complete, but we had a lot before then. And there were public meetings with the Parks Commission, and there were multiple public meetings with the Transportation Advisory Committee, the Housing Advisory Committee, EDAC, ARB. Every one of those are public meetings. So an awful lot of public meetings and a lot of opportunity to solicit and gain input. And yes, there's a pandemic, but by way of comparison, the school district right now, they were soliciting and receiving 600 emails a day. Their board trustees in the last month or so from the residents around school reopening. So I believe that if there's a lot of interest in a topic, a lot of people will give them input, and we were getting nowhere near that level of input. So I feel comfortable that we will get input if there is input to be received. So, you know, I feel comfortable that we got a lot of input and we did a very thorough job reviewing this project. So I feel comfortable that we did our diligence on this project. And so I feel comfortable moving forward with what we've done so far.
Can I weigh in on this since we're offering our comments on it? I think one of the things that is really remarkable about this project and is the opposite view about this situation with the pandemic, because this is designed to be phased in over the years. It is actually, you know, the ideal kind of setup given the uncertainty. You know, is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? Is it going to be 20 years? But I think that the brilliance of it, okay, you know, maybe that's too strong a word, but one of the things I find remarkable in looking at this and assessing it as a resident of San Ramon is that it does have the built-in capacity to pivot as needed, to be reconsidered, to have people say like, yes, this is working well, or you know, didn't anticipate that. We don't know all of the things. We don't know what we don't know. But you know, I do think I feel really good that this has this capacity to be phased in and can be responsive as our economy shifts, as our culture shifts, as our economics, you know, just how we like to get around. So, and again, lots of meetings, lots of input on this. And I don't think, no one is saying that we have not given this due consideration. And I don't feel like we've rushed through this at all. You know, when we're sitting and reading 600-page agendas, and I think this one was just a short one. It was only, you know, 300 pages for this meeting. So thank you for letting me speak, Chair Alpert.
I guess I'll jump in if just to make a few comments before we vote. I would certainly reiterate what Commissioners Kuznick, Marks, and Chair Alpert have said. I won't be redundant with those, especially after they go to the due process and public outreach and feedback that we've had. I know I personally have spent more time on this project by tenfold than anything else that we've had before us on my short tenure. And I'm proud of that because it deserved our attention. I'd also want to point out that by my count, the majority of the public written comments that we have received have been in support of the project. And I have to say that also weighs on my reasoning. Having said that, I appreciate the well thought out presentations of the group of concerned citizens who have correctly voiced issues that we have with progress. Yet, I believe that this project does about as well as one could do in these situations and shifts the housing to areas where we want it. We have a willing partner, I believe, here that has been responsive to the public outreach. There have been many tweaks in this plan from the beginning when this all started. I remain concerned about, in particular, the park deficit that is acknowledged in the response to the EIR that the city has. I also acknowledge that that's not the applicant's legal problem. It's the city's problem. It is a requirement of the general plan, and all the city can do is what we're doing, which is charge an in lieu fee. So in that respect, I have to cross my fingers that the city can align our numbers. And I know there's a projection out there that says by 2035, I think we're supposed to be at our ratio of acres to per thousand residents. Nevertheless, there is some positive note in that this project will be taking in 2 lakes, which have already planned some nice amenities that I'm hopeful will add to the open space feeling of the park, despite the deficit that the park itself, that the entire build out plan may cause based on population projections. I will say I've lived in this city for the most part of the last 42 years. I have seen a lot of growth, and I've also lived in a lot of other communities in the Bay Area. And I think I need to defend San Ramon right now because I am happy with the growth as it's been controlled in this city. And I have seen much more traffic congestion, much more parking congestion, noise, lack of attractive architecture in many other cities that are smaller. I'm not going to mention anybody, but we probably all know some cities around us that are that way. So by and large, and balancing all the concerns, I think this is a net positive for the city and is consistent with the aesthetic that we want to achieve in the Bishop Ranch area. And I, for one, am happy that we have a private landowner who owns such a large area that is willing to work with us to help us achieve not only our housing goals, but also our goals for creating a vibrant and activated community from retail over to commercial, over to residential. So I think I'm indicating that I will be supporting the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Frank.
Mr. Chairman, there is something I would like to say about this coming resolution, 11-20. What is before us tonight is the master plan and all that it encompasses. The issue that we've heard about from the public relative to parks, what's going to happen to the public park system, what kind of credit the applicant will get for the amenities that they are proposing on site, that will be dealt with at a future time through a development agreement. So any action we take tonight, and I suspect it will be approval, does not address those issues of will we accept the notion of privately owned public access parks, or what kind of financial contribution in kind the city may be making. I think that's important to note. That will be the subject of future meetings, and the city council will likely be the deciding group on that issue. Tonight, it's the plan and the plan only.
Thank you, Commissioner Marks, for that clarification. Yeah, I appreciate that. That is additional comments at this time. Yeah.
Let me just make a very brief, because we've heard very thoughtful comments by the rest of the commissioners. I just want to point out that the idea of having housing in the core area of San Ramon actually began around 2012 when we adopted the North Camino Ramon specific plan. It allowed for 1,150 housing units actually outside of the city center area. And the idea was to have housing in the business park so that people could live and work in that area. We've all heard the phrase jobs, housing, balance. It doesn't mean 30,000 people live in the city with 30,000 jobs, because if those 30,000 people commute to San Francisco for the jobs, that's really not a jobs, housing balance. It's a balance when the people who live in the city actually work there. And the point behind the North Camino Ramon specific plan and also City Walk is to put people in the area where they do work. There's 30,000 people that work in Bishop Ranch. I'm, I guess, an optimist. Some people may call me a Pollyanna, but I think that over the next year or so, the pandemic that everybody's been talking about and frightened of will eventually find a cure. It won't go away on its own, but there will be methods to deal with it. And we will be back in a different way to some type of normal lifestyle. Maybe some people will want to commute. I am not one who believes that the people who've been working in Silicon Valley making $150,000 a year are going to suddenly decide that Manteca is the place where they want to raise their kids. This is, I think, to somewhat a temporary situation. I think this plan has been talked about a lot. I noticed going through the material that we started back in August of last year, having meetings on this particular program. It's been posted all over the city. It's been talked about all over the city. And as most of you know, particularly the ones who have been on the commission for a long period of time, our committee meetings, our commission meetings are not exactly the hot topic in San Ramon. There's one or two where we've had a number of people, but frankly, if you wanted to get more than 20 people at any of our meetings, you'd have to call up the chief of police and drag in people off the street to fill in those seats. It's just not realistic to think that you're going to get a huge, wide section of the population coming to a meeting by having another meeting and another meeting and another meeting on top of that. This plan has been discussed almost ad nauseum. It's been thought about carefully by staff, the applicant, and this commission. It's a good plan for what we need. It puts people in an area that we need people in. We can't go and build out not Doherty Valley, but Tassara Valley with single family homes. That's not going to happen. We're going to have an allotment of housing from the state, which I have been told will probably be the neighborhood of twice what we had this last housing cycle. It's not possible to build that many homes in the rest of the city unless you want to tear down all the housing tracts that were built in the 60s. That's not going to work. I think this is a very reasonable project in the right place at the right time. And in case you had wondered, I am supportive of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wallace. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, I think we've all indicated our intent to support this project. So at this time, I would like to invite a motion for resolution 11-20.
I will move to approve resolution 11-20, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Ramon approving the City Walk Master Plan, including vesting tentative map. I will omit the numbers. Development plan, I will omit the numbers. Land use permit, I will omit the numbers. Minor use permit and architectural review filed by Sunset Development Company.
I will second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved in second discussion. We can skip reading the page numbers, but we quickly glance through. Are there changes or corrections or items that you would like to discuss, starting with the resolution first? There's a lot of pages, so, okay. And then there's the conditions. You know, Lauren highlighted that he did insert a couple of new ones there, and that, you know, he did highlight that there was the one that was added on the electric vehicle charging one that came in up after the last meeting. And then of course there's the fire one that he said he showed us tonight, but nobody's raising their hand that they really wanted to talk about any of these. So, okay, then Jen, I think we are then ready for a roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. So we had mover Commissioner Frank.
Aye.
Seconder Commissioner Kuznick.
Muted.
Okay, good thing I didn't say anything inappropriate. Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Marks.
Aye.
Vice Chair Wallace.
Aye.
And Chair Alpert.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
All right, just before we move on, I wanted to make a statement about appeals. The decision of the Planning Commission is subject to a 10-day appeal period. Anyone wanting to appeal should file an appeal with the county clerk by submitting the required application form along with the fee and the grounds for the appeal. And that should be done prior to August 14th at 5 p.m. So that's all.
Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, so item 10 is public hearing new items. We have none this evening. Item 11 is non-public hearing action items, and we have none. Item 12 is study session, commissioner liaison report, and interest items or staff reports.
Any liaison reports? Commissioner Wallace.
Yes, well, two things on the Housing Advisory Committee. The first is that Commissioner Marks and I acted as an ad hoc committee last week and interviewed 5 of the 6 applicants for the positions. One of the applicants could not make it. After the interviews, Commissioner Marks and I submitted our votes. We selected the 3 people we would like to recommend to the Planning Commission for then reference to the City Council. I'm assuming they'll probably be in front of us on the 18th on the consent calendar. The other item I wanted to mention was at the Housing Advisory Committee meeting itself the week before, Ryan Driscoll had mentioned that there have been some preliminary communications with ABAG about RENA allocations for the next year. And although no firm numbers have come out, I guess there's a process by which it goes through. The thinking, and I think I clarified this with Lauren earlier today, was that it is more likely than not that our housing allocation will go up and may go up as much as twice as it was in the last housing cycle. So you've all had an opportunity to look at our map in San Ramon, the housing opportunity sites. So that's going to be a challenge when that next cycle starts, which I believe is next year.
Other liaisons in the past 2 weeks? No. Okay, Lauren, your turn. Coming attractions.
Sure. On August 18th, we will be back with you with the Crow Canyon specific plan update. And we'll be holding a public hearing on that. In addition, we'll be asking for a recommendation on the Housing Advisory Committee appointments from the ad hoc committee. And then we'll do some additional housekeeping with regard to the chair and vice chair. Moving on to September 1st, we have currently scheduled the Emergency Operations Center at 2401 Crow Canyon Road, the permit center, current permit center. We're looking at renovations for a dispatch center as well as tenant improvements for the main building for the fire district. And I'll leave it at that.
Lauren, I don't know if you've not gone to the next meeting after that, but are you looking at a meeting in mid-September?
There's a possibility. Oh, it's our schedule hasn't quite firmed up. There are a few things that are floating. But right now, we currently do not have anything penciled in yet, but there's at least 2 applications floating right now.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, nothing else? Item 13, if nobody has anything else, I think we're okay to adjourn. Is that okay with you, Jen?
Good with me. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn the planning commission meeting at 8:25 p.m. Okay, good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.